Hello, I'm Marina Kim with the latest updates from Kazakhstan. After the month-and-a-half-long isolation, Kazakhstan has finally opened its border with Kyrgyzstan. The situation has seriously damaged the economies of both countries, as southern Kazakhstan is experiencing the rise of prices and Kyrgyz businesses count losses. Experts went as far as focusing the collapse of the Kyrgyz economy altogether had the blockage continued. The border, however, was suddenly reopened on Thursday, just one day after Kyrgyzstan cut water supply to the southern regions of Kazakhstan.
Water used a political tool for the lifting of almost 1.5 months long border blockade of Kyrgyzstan. The neighbors simply cut the water supply for two southern regions of Kazakhstan, and the domestic authorities immediately opened the border, even though they remained firm on the decision even a day prior.
We should not tolerate pressure attempts from anyone linked to the Chinese-Kyrgyz black market and instead protect the interests of our people. We cannot talk about borders opening until the situation in Kyrgyzstan will be stabilized, all illegal kept weapons seized and all escaped convicts returned to prisons.
During the isolation, people living in the border regions of both countries appealed to the authorities to lift the blockage, citing growing prices and social tensions. Kyrgyz officials even appealed to international organizations asking to put some pressure on the neighbor. Meanwhile, Kazakh youth, namely activists of the movement Abroy, wrote numerous appeals to the government and even attempted to give ministers now expensive apples, the symbol of the continued isolation. While speaking of his role in the resolution of the situation, the movement's leader admitted that the decision of Astana was forced by the water tool.
Water becomes a political pressure tool for the local governments and leaders. Kyrgyzstan, a country that has nothing apart from gold resources, coal mines and isegal resorts, is apparently able to manipulate public opinions and decision-making in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan.
80% of water reserves in Kyrgyzstan's Kirov Dam are used for agricultural needs of Kazakhstan. The closed border left around 50% of all irrigated lands in Jambul region without water. The decision, long awaited by the population from both sides of the border, has reflected on the border checkpoint load, although it's still not as big as it used to be.
We have been standing here for days asking to let us pass and at least get some money from the ATM to buy some food, but the guards didn't let anyone in. Then suddenly they opened the border on Thursday morning, and I don't actually know why that happened.
Experts in Kazakhstan expressed concerns that Kyrgyz authorities might use the water issue again in the future, since the issue was not resolved fully.
Another story came to its conclusion on Thursday after the financial police found no violations in the activity of Center Credit Bank and reported about it in a briefing in Astana. Inspections of the Center Credit were initiated a month ago due to a collective appeal of the bank's former and present employees. The anonymous letter to the financial police included complaints about the alleged violations in the activities of one of the major banks in Kazakhstan. The specific nature of violations was not disclosed by the financial police. Representatives of the bank say that the anonymous letter stated facts of some questionable operations. On Thursday, the Anti-Corruption Department revealed that the allegations against the bank's management cannot be confirmed.
No violations of the banking legislation were found in the activity of the bank by the Financial Supervision Agency. The financial police will announce its decision after the end of the inspection.
Meanwhile, the ratings of Kazakh banks are discussed in Almaty. The international agency Fitch Ratings conducted the 4th annual conference, revealing that the majority of domestic banks ended up in the category of stable financial institutions. Nevertheless, the market's heavyweight Kazkommertsbank will remain in the negative due to the concerns about the quality of assets and capitals.
According to Fitch Ratings, the forecast of Kazakhstan's biggest financial institution, Kazkommertsbank, remain negative. Only Ally, BTA and Timirbank are in the worst situation, still listed in the default category.
The agency believes that in general the trend of dropping indicators will still be observed in the coming months.
After the forced nationalization of BTA, Kazkommertsbank took the leading position in total assets. Smaller players are now concerned that the poor ratings of the major bank will affect all market participants, which is proved by BTA history.
We are all in the same boat, and if someone jumps off, the boat will rock, and this is very bad for the entire system.
The profitability of commercial banks continue to drop, while the free money supply is being accumulated by the financial institutions. Fearing non-repayments of credits, banks have almost completely stopped issuing money to the businesses. According to Fitch Ratings, excessive government interference and regulation attempts further complicate the situation. The deputy chairman of the financial supervision agency, Kuat Kazhakhmetov, who was listed as a speaker to the conference, should have cleared all the experts' concerns, but never showed up. Major TV channels followed this example and avoided covering the event.
Perhaps right now the demand for some rating services is low. However, investors will always consider their data prior to making any decisions.
Three leading international rating agencies have always experienced pressure from the US and European governments. Now, Kazakh authorities also expressed their attitudes by ignoring the annual conference.
Dariga Nazarbayeva, the elder daughter of the president, has sold her share of Nurbank. Sofia Sarsenova, an instructor of the Kazakhstan Sports and Tourism Academy, became the new top shareholder of the financial institution with 75%. For the first time in the history of independent Kazakhstan, a regular professor became the owner of one of the biggest banks of the country.
Professor of the Sports Academy, Sofia Sarsenova, who holds a PhD in biology, experienced some breathtaking career growth as the regular employee of the Anatomy and Physiology department bought a big share of Nurbank, one of the leading enterprises in the country. The Academy's professors are happy for their colleague and speak of her as a modest and considerable person who would never accept bribes from her students.
No one could have seen this coming, as she was always very modest. I guess this truly shows that she was actually a secret millionaire.
Nurbank declined to comment on the changes in the shareholders so far. A press conference on the matter will be held in a week, while a press release will have to suffice for now.
In its resolution number 57, the Agency of the Republic of Kazakhstan on the regulation and supervision of financial market and financial institutions permitted Ms. Sarsenova to acquire the status of Nurbank's shareholder.
According to the co-chairman of Social Democratic Party Azad, Bulat Abylov, the real owner of Nurbank is now businessman Rashid Sarsenov, who used to own the oil producer Mangistau Munay Gas and French perfume house. The company's share were sold by Daria Nazarbayeva and her son Nurali Aliyev. Abylov believes that Rashid Sarsenov only lost the money on the deal.
According to the information I have, Rashid Sarsenov was to be paid for his share, but then it was decided that instead of cash he will acquire 75% of Nurbank, while about 800 million will go to Dariga and Nurali. Nurbank doesn't cost this much now, maybe a little more than 100 million. This deal was masterminded in Astana.
Public fund BOTA will allocate $12 million to support socially vulnerable families and children. The program uses money of illegal origins arrested in Switzerland by the US government back in 1999. It was revealed that the $84 million in question belonged to Kazakh high-ranked officials. Foreign observers suspected that money with unknown origins are linked to the Kazakh Gate scandal. However, the finances were later returned to the country on the conditions that they will be spent for charity, which resulted in the creation of the public fund BOTA. This year, the first tranche amounting to $3 million will be made to support NGOs providing social services. $10 million have been allocated for a 3-year-long childhood support program. The fund takes care of approximately 2,500 poor families in the Kızılar'da and Akmala regions.
We have sufficiently strict control over this money since we are a public fund. We know that there might be some bad moments in the handling of public funds, and we want to minimize such cases.